Tom Jones, make that Sir Tom Jones, has sold more than 100 million records over his remarkable 6-decade career.
It's been so tough for you when you lost your wife.
Really knocked the stuffing out of me because we'd been together since we were kids.
He sang the Lord's Prayer at 12 years old, and his teacher stopped him mid-note. "Why are you singing like that?" Tom Jones didn't have an answer then, but that voice, the one that rose from a sick bed in Wales,
Jones recounts how he rose from his roots in the coal fields of Wales,
that filled Caesar's palace, that made millions weep, has now gone quiet. The concerts are canceled, the stages are dark, and the official statement says upper respiratory infection. But Tom Jones, at 85, said something no press release ever would. The real reason isn't in any headline. It never was. What he's been carrying for 9 years, the loss, the guilt, the silence, is finally coming out. Stay with us. The truth starts now. The month everything fell apart. 2 losses, same month. Neither one made the headlines. August 2015 arrived like any other month on a touring schedule. Concerts booked, hotels confirmed. Tom Jones, 75 years old and still one of the most recognizable performers alive, had no reason to expect what was coming. The Voice UK had given him something rare, a different kind of relevance. Not the roar of a Las Vegas crowd, but the quieter authority of being in millions of British homes every Saturday evening. 4 series, 4 years, and an audience that trusted him not because he was new, but because he had earned it across 6 decades of stages and studios. Then the call came through his management. The BBC had decided to replace him on the panel. Boy George and Paloma Faith would be taking his chair. There was no phone call from anyone at the network, no meeting, no face-to-face conversation, no chance to hear the reasoning before the rest of the world found out. Because Tom Jones learned about his own removal approximately 24 hours before the public did through the same impersonal chain of intermediaries. He told reporters afterward with the carefully measured restraint of a man who has spent 50 years learning when to speak. Sometimes you wonder whether it's run by humans or a machine sitting in a basement. He was 75 years old. He had just been informed, through a message left with his agent, that he was no longer needed. That was one half of August 2015. The other half was this. Linda, his wife of nearly 6 decades, received test results that confirmed what she had been afraid of. She had fought cancer twice before and won both times. The third time, the doctors told her it was terminal. Lung cancer was diagnosed in April.
In April, she found out she had lung cancer.
And by August, the picture was clear. The 2 of the worst things that can happen to a person: professional humiliation and the news that the person most central to your life is dying, arrived within weeks of each other. Tom Jones went back on stage. He continued the schedule through the autumn and into the winter because Linda told him to. "Keep performing," she said. "Do not cancel a single show on my account." And he did not. The son he never met. A secret the tabloids found. A man the world forgot. In 1987, during one of Tom's long stays in Las Vegas, he had an affair with a model named Catherine Berkery. A son was born the following year. Tom denied paternity. A court ordered a DNA test in 1989. The result confirmed the child was his. He was ordered to pay approximately $2,500 a month in child support. He paid it until Jonathan turned 18, when the payments stopped. And so did everything else. No phone calls, no visits, no attempt at any kind of relationship. Tom acknowledged Jonathan's existence publicly in 2008, but stated clearly that he wanted nothing to do with him. He did not soften this or explain it. He simply said it and moved on. By 2018, Jonathan Berkery had ended up on the streets of Hoboken, New Jersey. He was last photographed outside a shelter, holding a cardboard sign asking for money, singing his father's songs to strangers who passed by on the pavement. That image, a man standing outside a shelter with a sign, singing, "It's not unusual to people who do not know who he is," sits inside this story like something that cannot be explained away or made comfortable. Jonathan carries his father's talent and his father's name in the only way left available to him. On a street corner, odd for spare change, to an audience of people who have no idea what they are looking at. Linda never spoke about him, not once, not to any reporter, not in any context anyone has ever recorded. Whatever she thought about a son her husband had fathered and then walked away from, she kept it entirely to herself and took it with her when she died. The voice is quieter. Now what remains when the instrument begins to go? It is 2025. Tom Jones is 85 years old. The concerts are canceled, and the official line is upper respiratory infection. But Tom himself has said something more honest than any press release ever would. He has admitted to having less control over his voice. He has admitted that there are mornings now when the instrument simply does not come when he calls for it. The voice that emerged from a bedridden 12-year-old in Wales. The voice that was never supposed to sound the way it did. The voice that filled Caesar's palace and earned a Grammy and carried him through 60 years of performing.
Tom, great to meet you, sir.
How are you?
Great.
Good.
So, the Grammys. You've been here before.
Is doing what every instrument eventually does. He has said publicly that he does not know how many shows he has left. He has said he does not know what he would do without the stage. What he has not said, what he has never quite been able to say, is whether stepping back feels like defeat or like something closer to permission. Linda told him to carry on. He carried on for 9 years through grief therapy, through new albums, through one night on live television that cracked open everything he had been holding together. He did what she asked for, as long as his body would allow. The question is not whether Tom Jones will stop performing, because that is not a word he uses, and nothing about him suggests it ever will be. The question is whether the voice that built everything will give him a say in when it ends, or whether it will simply end on its own terms, quietly, without warning, the way Linda left. The voice that wasn't supposed to exist. Where it all began and why none of it should have happened. Thomas John Woodward was born in 1940 in Treforest, South Wales. His father worked the coal mines. His family was ordinary. And for the first 12 years of his life, so was his voice. He could carry a tune. He sang at school and at family gatherings the way boys from Welsh towns have always sung warmly, without any hint of what was coming. Then, at age 12, tuberculosis arrived. For 2 years, he was confined to bed in his family home. No school, no friends. It was just a small room and a body fighting to survive while his father went down the mines every morning. When he finally recovered, something had fundamentally changed. The tenor voice of a 12-year-old Welsh boy was gone. In its place was a deep, raw baritone that nobody in Pontypridd had a frame of reference for. Not a polished, trained voice, something rougher. Something that did not belong to any category his teachers or neighbors had a name for. Tom has spoken about this in interviews. He remembered singing the Lord's Prayer at school and his teacher stopping him mid-verse, asking why he was singing it like a gospel spiritual. He told her he didn't know. He said he was just singing the way he felt. That single answer, "I'm just singing the way I feel," would define the next 7 decades of his life. The illness had not broken him, and it had built him. The sick bed had reshaped the instrument inside him from the ground up, and the entertainment industry would spend the next 60 years trying to categorize something that had been created by accident in a terraced house in Wales. In 1963, a manager named Gordon Mills found Tom singing in a working men's club and decided this young man needed a different name. He chose Tom Jones after the popular film of that year and set about turning a Welsh club singer into something the industry had never quite seen before. Within months, Tom Jones recorded It's Not Unusual in 2 takes. Number 1 in the UK, top 10 in the US. He was 24 years old, and his name was suddenly everywhere. A year later, Thunderball. Then a Grammy for Best New Artist. Then 36 appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we kick off the show with Tom Jones.
Then, First Las Vegas had a residency at Caesar's Palace that would become as permanent a part of his identity as any song he ever sang. Within 3 years of leaving Pontypridd, Tom Jones was one of the most famous performers alive. The voice that had come from a sick bed in Wales had carried him further than anyone in that terrace house could have predicted. The marriage nobody saw. 59 years. Not one red carpet. Not one interview. Tom Woodward was 16 years old when he married Linda Trenchard. She was also 16. She was pregnant. There was no long courtship and no ceremony worth describing. They had grown up together in the way children grow up in small Welsh towns, where everyone knows everyone. And then life moved faster than either of them had planned for. Their son Mark was born that same year. Tom was 16, a husband, and a father, living in the same terrace house in the same town his family had always lived in, with a voice that everyone who heard it said did not belong in Pontypridd. The voice was the only door out. And when Tom walked through it, Linda followed, but on her own terms, and those terms never changed. While Tom was performing 200 shows a year and constructing one of the most visible public lives of the 20th century, Linda was at home. First in Pontypridd, then London, then eventually a mansion in Los Angeles that Tom had bought from Dean Martin, but never in front of a camera, never once on a stage beside him. The people who knew her have described someone sharp, funny, and private in a way that had nothing to do with shyness. She had her own friends, her own social circle in London, her own life that required no spotlight from her husband's career to feel complete. She was not a woman who had been left behind by fame. She was a woman who had examined fame closely and decided she wanted nothing to do with it. Tom has said in multiple interviews that at the height of his career, he was sleeping with approximately 250 women a year. He named specific women publicly. He acknowledged affairs that lasted years. He discussed it with a casual openness that, in any other era, would have ended his career before lunch. And Linda knew. Not because she discovered it one day, but because she had always known. Tabloid stories on the doorstep. Interviews where her husband discussed other women on national television. She absorbed it all and never moved from the position she had taken early in their marriage. Tom described her as the only person who had ever made him feel safe. That is an extraordinary thing for a man surrounded by millions of fans to say about the one person who never once stood in front of a crowd on his behalf. Why did she stay? It is the question no interviewer ever managed to fully answer. Whatever the truth of it was, it belonged only to the two of them, and one of them is gone. What grief looks like. From the outside, 6 years of composure. One night, when the wall came down. On April 10, 2016, Linda died. She was 75 years old.
Singer Tom Jones' wife of 59 years, Melinda Rose Woodward, has died after her battle with cancer.
Tom sold the Los Angeles mansion, the house built around a celebrity life she had never wanted, and moved into a small apartment in London. He entered grief therapy and has spoken about it publicly with more honesty than most men of his generation would ever consider showing. He described sitting across from a therapist and asking the question that had clearly been building inside him for a long time. Did I do enough? Was I on the case? It is the kind of question a man asks when he genuinely does not know the answer. When he has spent 60 years being the most visible person in every room he entered, married to a woman who spent those same 60 years ensuring she was the least visible, and now finds himself alone, unable to determine whether the balance between those two lives had ever been fair. For 6 years, he held together in public with the discipline of a man who learned as a teenager that the show does not stop for personal reasons. He returned to The Voice UK in 2017. He released new music. He toured. He gave interviews discussing Linda with warmth and precision, offering exactly as much of his grief as he had decided the public was permitted to see, and not one word more. His album, Surrounded by Time, released in 2021, was treated as proof that Tom Jones had come through the worst chapter of his life, with his talent and dignity intact. The story the public had built around him was tidy and complete. Tom Jones endures. He carries on. In 6 years, no one had seen the wall come down. On September 3rd, 2022, he performed a song called I Won't Crumble With You If You Fall on The Voice.
But I won't crumble with you if you fall.
UK, a track he had written after Linda's death. And he stood on that stage and sang it through to the end with the steadiness of a man who has held rooms together for 60 years. The song ended. The studio fell into a silence nobody had been expecting. And then Tom Jones stopped. He turned to face the audience and the cameras and the millions of people watching across the country, and he told them what Linda had said to him in the last days of her life. The words were, "You can't crumble with me. Don't fall with me now. You've done everything you can." 6 years of private grief. 6 years of composure were maintained with the focus of a man who learned as a teenager that the show continues no matter what. All of it came apart in one moment on live national television. The song went to #1 on UK iTunes within 24 hours. Not because of the melody or the production, and because of what the audience had just witnessed a man choosing, in front of the entire country, to let them finally see what was on the other side. Tom Jones was asked, years after Linda died, how he remembers her now. His answer was not about the illness, not about the decades of marriage, not about the question he had asked his therapist. His answer was 4 words. I think of her laughing, not ill, not diminished, not absent, but laughing. The woman who disappeared from every camera, every stage, and every public record of her husband's life, remembered not for what she endured or what she kept to herself, but for the sound she made when she was happy. Tom Jones did not quit because the crowds stopped coming. He did not quit because the fame ran out. He quit because his body finally said what his heart had been saying for 9 years, that enough had been given, and that Linda, wherever she is now, would understand. A voice that began in a sick bed in Wales, that survived coal mines in Las Vegas, and grief and loss, and one very honest night on live television, has gone quiet. Not forever, perhaps, but for now. And in that quiet, there is something worth sitting with. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the lives that exist behind the headlines, drop a comment below and tell us what stayed with you. Like this video if you believe stories like Linda's deserve to be told. Subscribe so you never miss the ones that go deeper than the surface. We will see you in the next one.